Good afternoon. I'm not Yolanda, I'm Thomas, just to make sure. So I'm Thomas Folegot from Quiet Oceans. I just first want to thank all the team that is working on this project. And basically they are doing most of the work while I'm drinking coffee. And so I'm just the messenger today. And if you have very technical questions, I may not be able to answer. So we are going to have a look at what is going on with the underwater noise, which is, just about Quiet Ocean. So a few words. We are an SME, quite young. We just turned 7. And but we are the French leader in passive underwater acoustics, prediction, monitoring and risk mitigation. And we basically work for governmental agencies, for the industry, the maritime industry, and also for marine protected area people, and with the research to provide them with underwater noise maps and to help them to mitigate their risk and the risk of their project. So we basically work with everyone that is at sea, and that's actually a lot of people. We have projects mainly in Europe, but we also in the Indian Ocean, in the Caribbean, and we start to work in Africa as well. So why is this a concern? Actually, underwater noise is now regulated in Europe through the MSFD, but also in a lot of other countries. Since this issue has been raised at the United Nations level. For the MSFD, the 11th descriptor is exclusively about introducing underwater noise in the marine environment. And why? It's because it's now known that it has an adverse effect on the marine life. So there is some working group, technical groups at the EU level that are developing methodologies, and one of what is recommended is to use a combination between measurement and modeling, so that we can extend what is measured into maps, and that's exactly what we're doing. So the services we are giving is to governments to be compliant to the regulation. For the offshore industry, we secure their projects. For the marine area people, we help them to define their action plan. And for researcher, mainly biological research, we give them additional information so that they can understand the interaction between sound and the marine life. So the objective of this, how it works is it's a prediction system which has the same philosophy as, I would say, as weather forecasting or oceanography. First, we need to know where our sound sources are located. And for that, we are connected to a bunch of different services that tells us in real time where the vessels are placed or where this activity is placed. Then we need to know from this sound source, we need to know how it will propagate into the marine environment. For that, we are connected to a bunch of static databases about the bathymetry, about the sediment, and stuff like that. And then obviously, we also need to know the dynamic part of the ocean, which is the water column. And we need to know the temperature and the salinity and the surface waves to be able to describe how the sound propagates into the ocean. And we are connected to Copernicus for that. Then we need some ground truths as well. So we are also connected to in-situ acoustic measurements and buoys that we deploy ourselves, or we do partnership with other people who have some measurements. And all that is basically connected together to create what we call operational ocean noise. So the purpose of this project was to have this system, which was only used by us for our projects, to be now being now operational and accessible worldwide, 24 hours, 7 days, to not only us, but the rest of the world. Well, every user that needs to know what the underwater noise is. So our users, the users are people who are not experts in underwater acoustic. So we had to create an intuitive interface. It's now available only under invitation for now. We do select our end users for now so that they can play with it and give some feedback, but it will be open to the public by December 2017. Freely on some areas just to illustrate and demonstrate the service, and through account setting for the rest. So what the service is providing, there is a live mapping system. Here, an example offshore Brest in France, where you have here a live mapping of the underwater noise. As you can see, all the red dots here are vessels, actually, that are cruising in the area, and you can see the noise that spreads around all the vessels and then interfering together. Then we have a more statistical service product, and here is an example of some monthly statistical maps across the whole Baltic Sea. It's a monthly statistics, and here the movie tells you every month what it is across 1 year. So we can, using these maps, you can see how the noise is changing in the area, either versus time or versus space. So how we use the Copernicus service, we use only model data in real time or delayed time. We started with the global layer, but we now have implemented also most of the regional products, so that when a customer, they will benefit from the best forecast. What we need to understand is that the end user will select its own area he has interest in. It can be a small area if you have a project for a coastal harbor extension, for example. That could be a small area, but then you have some other people that are interested in very large areas like the whole Baltic Sea. So it's the end user who will select what map he wants. So from that box, we automatically request the data from Copernicus. It tells us the temperature and the salinity that will be then serve as an input for our acoustic model. Here is an example here of the propagation that is strongly conditioned by the distribution of the temperature and the salinity. And then we will also get the surface waves that we will use then to produce a map of the natural noise. The waves, when they break, they generate noise. That's natural noise that has to be included in the map. So without temperature salinity, we can't do what we do. So it's very important for us, extremely important. We are using temperature salinity data extensively. And because Copernicus is providing a global coverage, we also provide a global coverage. Because Copernicus provides a real-time capability, we also provide a real-time capability. We are all in the numerical world, so that makes everything very easy. Everything can be automatic. And of course, working with Copernicus enhance our visibility, and today's talk, I think, is a good example. Some difficulties, so that's more the feedback from the technical team. If we could avoid interruption in the service, that would be good, especially with our prior notice. We can anticipate if we know that the service is going to be stopped. If we don't have temperature salinity, we can't provide our service. So if we know in advance, we can find some contingency plans. It looks like every product has a different, although it's always temperature salinity, the naming of the values of the data has different names, and that makes things more complicated. I mean, if temperature is always temperature, it makes all the coding more easier. There are some places where there is no data. First, when we say for this product, for example, we said, okay, look at this box. We will have data on all these boxes. We said, oh, great. But then we noticed that actually some pieces are missing in this box. So actually the box is not this, it's more something like this. So we had to kind of design a polygon around the data where the data is. Otherwise, we will pick up the data there and there is no answer. In a hole here, and there is no answer. And sometimes you also have holes in your product here. For example, the white area are places where there is no data. So if I just have a user that has his area is just there, what do I do? All right? Then we are mainly interested in the upper, in the upper 150 meters of the ocean. It's where you have the gradients of temperature, and mainly temperature are the highest. And that's very important for the acoustic propagation. So the most resolution we have in the first 150 meters, the better. Some places are not covered by any product, but that's small areas, I think. And we would be interested also to get tidal data as an additional input so that we can include it in our modeling. As a conclusion, underwater noise pollution is a growing concern, and everyone that is running a project at sea is concerned. That's a lot of people. We have developed and we operate a worldwide mapping service and prediction system that is now online and accessible 24 hours, seven days a week. We use this project to demonstrate the use of this especially for the MSFD. And we will use this project to do the promotion of our service and the service of Copernicus. And as I said, temperature salinity, without this, we can't provide our service. So it's an essential piece of our work and our business. Then we do measure sound. Sound is strongly linked to oceanography. So from knowing the sound, we can get a new kind of information about the structure of the ocean, the physical structure of the ocean. So it would be very interesting, I think, to work and to team up together so that we maybe through the acoustic observation, maybe we can enhance the Copernicus products. Thank you very much for your attention.
Impressive work, really, specifically for the noise. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions on what is really into the service that you are providing. Is it the model? Is it information from measurements? And if so, if it is only the shipping? And how do you validate your service?
Might I ask to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Helen Serafin from the TARS.
Can I go back to my presentation, please? Yeah. The first question was about what do we deliver, right? It's the map, really. But we are also sitting on a bunch on real acoustic data. And the next step that is under development is to also have a acoustic observation section in the service and analysis and combine both of them in the same interface. The second question was how we validate it. nowadays we are sitting on more than 18,000 days of acoustic data, in situ data, acquired in the Baltic, in the North Sea, in the English Channel, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Caribbean. And all these 18,000 days have been compared with the output of the modeling. All right. But we also use the acoustic data to calibrate our maps, so that from the acoustic data that our ground truth, so we process the data and we have some, in the model, in the calibration phase, we do have some degrees of freedom. For example, we have some uncertainties that we will reduce by using the measured data.
Thanks a lot. There's a question in the back.
Yes, it's about the improvements that you requested. The first one was about the notification when
Yes?
and you are already doing this, so maybe you have experienced something. I don't understand.
We should receive a notice. Okay, we don't. So, okay.
So we have to check.
Yes.
Can you introduce yourself, Anne?
Yes, it's under Marshall, the service manager from.
Okay, good.
Valentine?
Valentine Venus, you mentioned you would be interested in tidal data.
Yes.
Okay, we have a global database of tidal components, and I'm not sure if you're interested, if we can talk about that.
Yeah, please. Yeah, great. Thank you.